this
going.
Oh, are we recording?
Yeah, we've been recording.
Oh, good. I hope I keep all of that content.
How's that PBR
It's
taste?
the worst, and I need it so badly. So,
What are you drinking and why? PBR. Why? Because he needs it.
we were supposed to start recording about a half an hour ago.
And a day ago.
Well, I actually have decided we're going to move the podcast to Tuesdays because just staggering the updates, especially on Facebook, works better. When I post multiple things on Facebook in one day, Facebook just decides that it's going to pick one of them to show to my fans, and the others, well, might as well fuck them. So I had one day where I posted the podcast, and the podcast got however many 100 views, and the comic got like 3. And it's like, that's the opposite of what
you only get one bite at the end.
So we need to get a fucking RSS feed going.
I know, I need to work on that too. But so we were supposed to start recording about half an hour ago. But I decided I was going to do some kind of fancy multiple microphone setup tonight. We're in my studio at Health Effective Studios in Orlando, Florida. And I have a large mixing board that I was trying to plug into my small USB preamp so I could get the microphones going all at once. And I managed to fuck something up, and the left channel on my preamp no longer works. We are using the right channel, which will require a little bit more editing on my part. I thought I bricked the thing entirely, and I thought we were going to have to go to Guitar Center tonight and get something new. Luckily, Kyle said, I don't want to go to fucking Guitar Center. and so we sat down and figured out just how to get this thing going. Okay, so before we get started tonight, let's just identify our voices really quick. Obviously, I'm Brendan.
I'm Kyle.
Shut the fuck up.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Kyle.
So, Kyle, you much like The Undertaker, you just refuse to stay dead. You're back.
You know, you told me about this beforehand. I have absolutely nothing for it.
Where did you go?
What's it like on the other side?
It's a lot like the South, funny enough.
So you went to the Home for Infinite Losers. I always knew Dragon Ball Z was canon.
Oh my god. I may have told you guys about this while I was there, because I was on a 3-hour car trip from Charlotte, North Carolina, down to Seneca, South Carolina. And that's roughly a 2.5-hour trip. And it's like, I got fucking nothing to do. And I'm just noticing, like, I'm not even exaggerating when I say every half mile there was a Baptist church. And I just couldn't believe how many Baptist churches there were.
I'm pretty sure they work like dandelions. That's just how
it's unreal. It's crazy. They're everywhere.
And they are happy people down there. Not
Baptists.
So happy up here.
I mean, you're not wrong.
No one who sings that loud can be happy.
Well, Kyle, we're glad to have you back. I could have sworn we hit him hard enough.
You told me that was the good hammer.
We didn't bury him deep enough. All right. So we're coming to you tonight from Orlando, Florida.
We should probably check to see if there are guitar centers in Orlando, Florida.
There are guitar centers everywhere.
Really?
Yes.
Are they like Baptist churches?
They are the McDonald's of musical shops in both quantity and quality. Little Guitar Center zing for you there. Okay, so
sponsored by Guitar Center.
Ryan, let's go over this really quickly.
Okay.
Kyle and I have some interesting drinks to talk about this evening.
If you think that's interesting, that says something about you.
So Kyle and I have some things to talk about. The first week's theme was... What was the first week's theme?
Let's just call it suicides. Because
suicides?
That's what it amounted to.
Well, no, but the first week 1 was...
whatever Kyle
whatever you had.
Fridge.
It was a tea-based thing. Week 2 was blue.
Yep.
Week 3 was red. We're on week 4 now.
We are.
And
it looks very brown.
It's muddy water.
Next stop, Browntown. All right, tell us about this.
All right, I wanted to kind of get away from the color theme because I was running out of good uses. It just turned out that weird shade of brown. So this isn't
grandfather's shoe.
I was going to call it grandfather's movement. Grandfather's stool.
I'm going to call it John Cena's shorts.
A little treat.
But we'll get to that.
A little treat for the eyes. All right. So what we did in this drink is I took all of the major tastes that one can get access to in liquid form. If any of our listeners know where I can get savory in beverage form, keep that to yourselves. So, sweet, salty, spicy, sour. We have incorporated them all here. For the sweet, we have prune juice. For the spicy, we have ginger beer.
Okay.
For the... I already said sweet. For the salty, I cheated a little bit. It is grape-ass Powerade. But that's got a high enough
It's got electro. It's got a lot. It's electrolytes.
And I was kind of at my at my wit's end to find sour, so I just dumped a bit of lemon juice in there.
There's going to be a war in your stomach tonight, and you're going to lose.
No. And to keep with the theme, it's Captain Morgan spiced rum in there as well.
So try this thing.
Drink it.
You have to.
Fuck.
Look at this thing that you have made.
Okay, before I do, smell this.
I
This
don't-
smells
No,
awesome. All right,
drink
fair.
it. Drink it.
It smells so good, though. It can't be.
Just do it. Stop making good things by accident.
That's delicious.
All right.
Stop it.
That is.
This is This segment has just gone completely off the fucking rails.
That's better than the blue drink.
You were supposed to be bad at this.
That's like.
That's good. As
Yeah,
far as I'm concerned.
I can drink that. I can get down to
Okay,
that.
It's a little grimace-inducing, but still.
The only thing you're getting grimaces out of is the artificial grape Gatorade taste.
I think if you took the Gatorade
Yeah,
out of that, it would
you'd have
probably be pretty
something,
good.
yeah.
Next time I whip it up, no.
I don't know if they have
Gatorade.
prune juice in most bars, though.
No, probably not. You wouldn't be able to. God, no one would make this for you.
Call it a
So,
wharf.
I started off the podcast by chugging a PBR because I'm just at my fucking wit's end. And that's just the kind of night I was having. But I also poured a fine glass of homebrew for Kyle and I. This is
All right. Do we want to try? Do we want to give this
Yeah,
a
let's
try?
give it a try. This is the stuff my dad makes. This is an ale of some kind. I think it's an amber ale. It has an amber color, and I know it's an ale, so that's what I'm going to guess.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers. Ooh. I've had this before, so
That's good.
yeah,
That's
it's
tasty.
nice.
That's tasty.
I always like drinking the homemade stuff. Not a whole lot to say about it because we don't really know a whole lot about beer other than we like to drink it. But so, gentlemen, let's just get quickly right into the good stuff.
Yeah.
The wrestling rundown for this week.
Yeah.
We watched SummerSlam last night,
It was hype.
and
Hell of a time.
we really had a hell of a time. And we're going to start with the most important thing.
That happened.
John
that
Cena
night.
shitting his pants during the match with Brock Lesnar.
Oh Lord.
It totally looked like he took a dump in his
I
pants.
know. There was one shot with the camera where it totally looked like he took a dump in his pants.
It was a special stipulation by Vince.
But I mean, goddamn, Lol Cena loses.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't. And something Ryan said to me earlier today was, what was it?
Not only was it Lol Cena loses, it wasn't even close.
Yeah, it was
Which is-
barely a lull. It was just
Which was an interesting direction for them to go in, and I'm excited because they're doing something different.
It wasn't so much a match as it was an event.
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
way I phrased it.
Yeah.
John Cena didn't even have to be there. They could have had a Cena-kun body pillow, and it would have. Those are somewhere, man.
Oh, you can't see.
It's got the sweatband like wrapped around the top of the pillow.
and the shorts just around the bottom.
It's in a
Oh,
wheelchair.
God.
No, it's on a stretcher with a neck brace. So, I think that everybody at this table can share the opinion of fuck Cena.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
We enjoyed watching that though.
Yes, we
Yeah.
did. Most definitely. He set the new record, by the way. Brock Lesnar set the new WWE record for most suplexes in a match.
Holy
Previously held by Kurt Angle.
Wow! And how much? What's the number?
I think it was 9.
That's it.
I
No, that sounds
believe.
about right.
It was 9, and then and last night was 16
Oh, okay.
suplexes.
It
by
was
Brock
not.
Lesnar.
That sounds closer
Okay.
to correct. Yeah, there was a lot of suplexes. So now that Lesnar has the title, what do you think is next?
What do I think is next?
Both of you. I don't care
Ryan,
which
you
of
go first.
I mean, I'm a little bit ignorant in the ways of the wrestling world. You two have the advantage.
That's why
over
I'm
me.
interested to hear.
You two have the advantage over me because you can say, nah, they did something like that in 2011 and it totally didn't go that way. I have kind of taken it to heart that Brock Lesnar is a part-timer. I have taken it to heart that the majority of Lesnar's presence there is Heyman, who obviously can't wrestle. He can't defend the title for him. I don't expect him to lose it this month, but I wouldn't put it like 6 weeks, Lesnar won't hold the title anymore.
Really? You think it'll be gone that quick?
I don't think he's going to lose it directly to Rollins, though.
He could abdicate
I don't think
because
he
of
would.
shenanigans or something.
Maybe, I don't know. Like, the thing is, you're right in that he is a part-timer at the moment. But then again, they might have something, like, written into his contract that says something along the lines of, if we give you the belts, then you have to show up to Raw every week.
But the problem is who he wins against is almost less important than who he eventually loses against.
You're right, and actually, that's a good point.
Who's left to beat him?
That's the thing, is that if they want to take one of these young guys and give them a push over the next couple months, Lesnar is a perfect, huge villain to really get a young guy over.
I honestly think it's going to be Daniel Bryan.
Really? You think it'll be Daniel Bryan's return?
Yeah.
Now, actually, in an interview, Daniel Bryan did say he wants to take on Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
So maybe that was like a little kayfabe he's sowing the seeds for when he comes back.
Well, because
I definitely would not discount that happening.
The big thing about Daniel Bryan's initial rise was that he was surmounting tougher and tougher challenges to the point where he was eventually getting screwed out of everything. Yeah, he was getting screwed out of everything, and he, at WrestleMania he had to beat Triple H, and then he had to beat he just had to win the triple threat with Batista and Randy Orton, and so he kind of beat all the top, and he beat Cena to win the title in his very brief title run. That Triple H screwed him out of the first time. Yep. So he's beaten all the big players in the company except Brock Lesnar.
So if we want to stay thematic, then would it be possible that Daniel Bryan comes back, faces Lesnar for the title, wins, Rollins then cashes in Money in the Bank, and
maybe
Daniel
that's
Bryan
the thing
loses
is like
because of shenanigans?
I want you to take a step back here and think about Money in the Bank. Though there have been in the history of Money in the Bank, there have been 2 successful Money in the Bank cash-ins. Usually Money in the Bank gets cashed in when somebody's, flat on their back, just won a hard-fought match, and here comes Money in the Bank, but then they pull a Cena Superman and manage to save it. That's more what happens more often.
But yeah, for example, one of the times was last year at SummerSlam when Daniel Bryan won the title clean over John Cena.
Okay.
And immediately afterward, here comes Randy Orton with Money in the Bank. To cash it in, and then Triple H was refereeing the match. He takes Bryan, puts him in the pedigree, and then Randy Orton just comes in for the pin.
All right, well, then I will take a step back. I'm still going to say that Daniel Bryan is going to be the one who challenges Lesnar and defeats him for the title. I still say Rollins is going to take that opportunity to cash in. You've kind of convinced me that Daniel will still win that match.
I really don't think you're ever going to see, or at least not for a while. I do not think that Seth Rollins as WWE champion is a realistic thing.
I don't think it's there yet.
He's not going to lose to Dean Ambrose because they've kind of realized that Dean Ambrose works better as an underdog. Like, Dean Ambrose works better as the lunatic fringe. He's not actually supposed to hold a title, and if he doesn't have somebody to go the fuck off on, who is he?
Well, since we're talking about Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, let's talk about the lumberjack match.
It was really good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
As a what do I even want to call it? If it was a book or a movie, I'd call it a narrative device. As that kind of thing, the lumberjack match works because it shows how uncontainable those two fighters were. Because they kept getting away from the guys. Now, the one problem I see with the lumberjack match is you spell out very clearly just how B-tier the B-tier is.
Yeah.
They blend into the background real damn quick.
Yeah.
Damien Sandow dressed as an actual lumberjack
which is pretty great.
Pretty good.
But what was so great about this one, and here's the thing. I don't really know of many lumberjack matches in the history of the company, and from what I understand and what people are saying online, this was easily like the best one by far.
Well, if a I'm sorry, go on.
And I think a big part of that was the fact where it's just like, where they did get that point across, is that, like, these two can't be contained to inside the ring. And I think that worked toward the advantage of the match.
Like, what is the point of a lumberjack match?
Yeah. Another thing I fucking loved was Director of Operations Corporate Kane was actually acting as the Director of Operations. When shit started to go downhill, like, when they were escaping, like, Kane came out and told all the jobbers, like, go fucking get him. like he did his job as Corporate Kane.
That was pretty good. And I think that I think this feud could be over, and I
don't think it is.
I would be shocked.
Although actually, another point I wanted to bring up, and if you guys didn't catch this during the match last night, it's
Probably
definitely
not.
worth going back and finding.
Yeah.
Which is, if you recall, like, immediately before that huge scrum in the ring, Ambrose looked like he had the match in hand.
Yeah.
And he gave Seth Rollins his own finisher.
Yeah.
But, like, what he did before
I was
that...
just going to mention this. Yeah, go ahead.
Like, immediately before that, he, like, went down and looked at Seth Rollins while he was on the ground. It was just like, I loved you, Seth. You were a brother to me.
I did
And,
miss that,
and it's just like, and then it's just like with tears in his eyes, he gives him the finisher, which was Seth Rollins' curb stomp.
So it's like, even though the bad guy won, or ended up winning as a result of shenanigans, there was still kind of that catharsis that usually comes with the end of a feud.
And this may be reading too deep into it, but hey, maybe he may have been thinking about this for his character.
Yeah.
Is that like, this is a man that everyone thinks is crazy, but it's like, it's just like he's just really angry that someone that he trusted betrayed him,
Crazy
and he
love.
doesn't know how to express it.
All right, we've gone on record previously as saying that Dean Ambrose is super anime, and that's why we love
Yeah,
him. I
he's
want to
really
raise a really anime possibility. You guys
Go
tell
for
me
it.
if
It's pretty
sounds-
anime.
He's super anime.
That feud is either over or pretty. It's going to stay tepid until somebody assaults Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose is going to immediately attack that person.
See, that would be awesome. I'd love to see that.
Like it wouldn't even be a face thing. It's not a heel thing. It's a thing between brothers.
Oh boy, yeah, that certainly sounds.
I'm
like a
saying
thing that
take
could
it
be a
from
thing.
here and then make it into the inevitable reunification of the Shield.
Yeah. For now, let's make room for Dean Ambrose versus the Usos because everyone.
I think, but I think,
Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Award winners, the Usos.
I did think it made perfect sense that Seth Rollins beat Ambrose, though. As much as we wanted to see Ambrose win, Seth Rollins is still Mr. Money in the Bank, and he still needs to be a credible threat to anybody he might choose to take on. So
both characters maintained their importance in our understanding of wrestling. I think that's what.
Although I want
is.
to see a promo of tonight on Raw with Seth Rollins, just like, so like, I don't want this Money in the. Do you see that match out there? I don't want this anymore. Take it.
And then Damian Sandow becomes Money in the Bank again. But he dresses up as a dollar bill the whole time.
Oh God!
All right, so
Better than a suitcase.
Stephanie and Brie. That was surprisingly a very good match.
It was really good.
Nobody was expecting that. And
I could have seen
I
it
was
going.
not
I thought it
expecting
could
that.
go well to begin
It
with,
went
and it
super
went
well.
very well.
that was a very physical, very intense.
It was a
very
wrestling
well-executed
match.
Yeah.
With the twists and turns that
With
I
the
demand.
twists and turns
Yeah.
and everything.
Not a whole lot to say about that, really.
I mean, I could bring up the point that it interests me that when we started watching wrestling, which is we're coming up to about a year.
About
now,
a year. Yep.
The Authority was very present in the form of Triple H and Stephanie,
Yep.
mostly because they were almost directly feuding with Daniel Bryan.
Yep.
Daniel Bryan's gone. They're still carrying on that feud, almost like keeping the seat warm for him.
I think that's exactly what they're doing.
So
They're keeping Daniel Bryan's name in your head.
So you have they have the only people directly connected to Daniel Bryan, which is his wife Brie Bella. So you have the two largely interchangeable Bella twins.
Not anymore.
No, not anymore. But that's my point. They have two rather vacuous characters, and they're making the most out of them. But I think it's very clear they want Daniel Bryan to come back as soon as possible.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're investing
Well, who
energy
doesn't?
in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's going to be a weird match, Daniel Bryan
other
versus
things that
Lesnar.
happened. Did you have-
Who else was on the card?
I was about to go through it. We're down into other.
Oh, can we just point out? I saw this online today. It's just like Stephanie McMahon's ring gear was just the chick equivalent of Seth Rollins' ring gear.
Yeah, it really was. That was pretty good. So we Wyatt versus Jericho. Cool Dad did the job.
He did. It was a much tighter match.
It was a much better match, and it had the conclusion that everybody knew it would.
To be clear here,
I think it's going to keep going though.
it's a better match than their
Battleground.
match at Battleground.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
That one was not
No, just
great.
to make it clear to
Yeah.
our listeners.
Besides that, Ziggler won the Intercontinental Championship.
I'm happy about it.
Me too.
I'm warming to Ziggler a little bit.
I liked Dolph.
I like Dolph, but and it's just like I also like The Miz because he's doing great heel work.
Yeah, what was it that Mayfield tweeted last night about the Miz?
Lord.
It's like I tweeted to my mate that the Miz is good
hype.
now, and he responded, "Fuck you."
Yep.
So Ziggler's the Intercontinental Champion, which is great. We hope all the best
care
for Dolph
about that
Ziggler.
title.
Paige wins clean over AJ Lee for the Divas Championship.
They didn't have much time in that match, but they did well with what they had.
Oh, is
They
that why?
maximized their minutes.
Is
They
that why I felt-
maximized their minutes.
I think I ate Chinese food during that bit, so honestly, I only remember Paige getting her extension torn out.
Oh, yeah.
It did happen.
And then at the
AJ
end,
did rip that bitch's weave out.
only other comment I can make is Paige looks hotter in red than in that weird purple getup she usually has.
Orton versus Reigns. Somebody became an animal. I don't know which one. I don't care. It was
a cool down match.
Yeah, it was exactly what you would
It was a
expect
cool
that match
down
to
match. The end was nice. I thought the Superman punch countered into an RKO. I think that's what it was. Was super hype.
be. Yeah.
They had good spots. It was basically, and it was pointed out to me, I haven't gone back and watched the match again. It's very slow, very methodical. They paced it very deliberately.
Like two tigers in a cage.
Because here's the thing. Randy Orton was carrying Roman Reigns
I was going
through
to say,
that match.
Roman Reigns'
in-ring ability is really not great when he has to do a full match start to finish.
Roman Reigns
he
is really
always,
cute
he got
when he gets winded.
Yeah, well, not even winded. It's more like he was always the guy on the Shield that he'd be the hot tag at the end to unleash 3 awesome moves and get the win.
He's been
And it's like, and it's like he got over on that. And it's just like he's still learning on how to actually have a match from start to finish for 15 minutes. You know what I mean?
Right.
We didn't get the one spot that I was hoping for, which admittedly would have been a very difficult spot to pull off. I've told you two about this. I wanted to see a spear from in the ring into an RKO out of the ring. That would have been a hype spot.
That
for
would be
me.
hype.
Cool.
I could.
That's tough to do, though.
It'd be tough to do.
It's their job.
And taking an RKO in the concrete is also...
Well, I mean,
that
it's
is
padded
also
out there.
their job.
Yeah, I can see that working. Maybe that'd be a super hype spot at some point.
I wouldn't have believed you if you told me you could do a... I don't remember the order. It was RKO into Batista Bomb or the other way
That was
around?
awesome.
Yeah, that
Where
was
it was the Batista bomb into the RKO.
That was the spot of WrestleMania as far as I'm concerned. Fuck the 8 F5s.
End of PPV assessment. We really liked it.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Definitely, it was either that or WrestleMania was the best PPV.
I don't know
we've seen.
if I'd say it was better than Mania, but I might. It was.
Yeah.
I was more invested in more storylines for this pay-per-view than I was at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, who went up against Cena in WrestleMania?
At Mania?
Was it Orton again?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
Jeez.
my point.
What did Cena do at WrestleMania? It was not Randy. The main event at WrestleMania was
it-
Randy Orton,
yeah.
Batista, and Daniel Bryan.
All right, so
It wasn't Bray Wyatt, was
No,
it?
he wasn't
No.
feuding with Wyatt.
Oh.
yet.
Was that feud started at WrestleMania? Or not at WrestleMania, but I think it might have been.
What the fuck is he? Yeah, I think it. No, I have no idea.
I thought it was like the cage match, the one with the little Timmy.
Maybe.
But that may have been Payback.
doesn't matter.
Ask us again in 4 months
Yeah.
if we still remember shit about this pay-per-view. You'll know that we liked it better.
Yeah. So A plus players all around.
Yeah, and I'm excited for Raw happening soon.
Gonna be great. Okay, comics on the internet. Our topic this week is Casey Green comics on the whole, and kind of just. I'm not even sure how to phrase this. I rub it on the paper as "what the fuck, Casey Green," because that's really what our attitude has been towards this lately. Now we got to a point in back very recently where Ryan and I very quickly, where Ryan and I both looked at each other over the internet and said pretty much at the same time, "Do you notice a familiar thing that's happening here?" Where something mystical and cool just becomes silly at the drop of a hat.
It's strange that you put it this way, but it's essentially Casey starts out with new concepts and goes to old punchlines almost like they're a safety blanket. Like the comic in particular that we're referring to, Back, I'm afraid I can't remember the name of the guy he does it with. I don't think Casey does the writing, though, which is kind of
strange.
But
he's got to have some kind of influence.
He's got to have some kind of creative control, because it's essentially an undead cowboy story. And now there's fart jokes as the Belchy twins are taking over
the Tommy boys.
Whatever.
But yeah, it's
they're taking over the local watering hole because the taxes.
And it's the same thing that happened to Graveyard Quest. When Graveyard Quest started out, I didn't even know it was called Graveyard Quest.
It wasn't. That wasn't originally going to be a full story.
Well, then good, because that initial pitch, essentially, weeks worth, what I think was some of the best things he's ever done.
Yeah.
and then it became a full-on thing. And, come to think of it, this is what happened to the Anime Club, too. As soon as he had to go and make a full fleshed-out book of it, he just started... It's like he started rolling down a slippery slope.
The weird thing with Graveyard Quest is... Because I was reading through some of his older archives today. Do you guys remember he did an illustrated version of a short story called The Dog's Sins?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I do remember that.
It's a brief story in which a girl goes out to walk her old dog, and the dog is brought up on charges by Heaven, and apparently the dog is a jackass.
It's the Hitler of dogs.
He's the Hitler of dogs, and it has been determined dogs don't have souls. Somebody got to account for all this damn sinning, so the girl gets punished and gets sent to purgatory. It's a very short little story, works very well. I wonder if Casey... We've always known that Casey Green does not have enough confidence in himself. He doesn't have enough confidence in his art. He doesn't have enough confidence in his writing.
And he'll tell you as much pretty much all the time.
Especially with the new frog characters. He has incarnated Horribleville into those little frogs. And sometimes they're the best characters. But you see, Graveyard Quest...
People need to stop riding goddamn motorcycles around in my neighborhood when I'm trying to record a fucking podcast. One thing after another today, I tell you.
It could almost be represented mathematically. The longer a Casey Green storyline goes on, the further and further his self-confidence deteriorates until he goes to what he thinks are surefire things. Or even worse, I'll say this, he goes to what he knows are surefire bad things.
That was a lot of what made Horribleville on early Gun Show funny was he would have punchlines where the punchline was, that's the joke.
Yeah.
And I love those comics, but when you're doing a narrative, you can't fall back on that stuff because it does seem lazy and it does seem ineffectual.
There's a big difference between trailing off into that's the joke between panels 2 and 3 and between panels 2 and 30. Or
pages 2 and 30.
That long, drawn out... That's what Graveyard Quest has become. It's what the Rabbits have become. It's what the Anime Club became to an extent.
And you get a lot of these stories where I feel he's very vocal about the fact that he doesn't really want to finish them.
He hates the Anime Club.
Yeah, he finishes them because he feels he has to.
One of his comics, like I said, I was going through his older archive. There's one where it starts out as Question Hound, and it transitions into KC, and the punchline is, why do you make comics? To get attention. Would you still make comics if no one was watching? Pause. And essentially what it comes down to is, as soon as people aren't watching, he's going to stop doing anything. And it's hard to say, but it looks like he's actively trying to drive people away.
He's the very put upon artist, Casey Green.
He's been depressed for a long damn while, and I don't think he's hit it big like he thought he never would, but secretly hoped he would.
As many of us do.
Yeah, but to compare him to even like Joel Watson. Joel Watson's been at this for maybe 6 years.
Joel Watson is he's always optimistic, though. Joel Watson is.
Joel Watson supports a wife and a kid.
Yeah.
This is Joel Watson of Hijinks Ensue.
Thank you, because I did not know who that was.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was about to get to it. He's a very, very funny man. I've actually seen some interviews with him, and basically what he says is, I would not be doing this, one, if it didn't pay the bills, and if my original job hadn't been quite that soul-crushing.
So, Kyle, we haven't heard much from you on this subject. Have you been reading the Casey Green comics that we've been talking about?
You know, I check back on Gun Show every once in a while, and like when I see and I'll read it, and I'll read a couple, but as soon as like a really in-depth story gets going, I usually don't finish it.
So you don't even want the stories?
Not really. I honestly enjoyed Gun Show when it was just simple 3-panel. No, I was definitely more of a fan of Gun Show, and it's just, this is just personal taste more than anything, where it's like, I liked going and getting a quick 3 to 6 panel laugh.
He's definitely stronger as a gag writer than he is as a narrator.
And it's like, that's why that's why I read Womp now.
Yeah. But there are webcomic artists, it goes both ways too, because I went in the other direction. I feel I used to force myself to write gag strips when what I wanted to be doing was longer stories, and now that I'm doing that, I feel like I'm doing better work. Ryan,
and you're
yes,
it's just like that's totally cool.
Wait, I'm sorry. Was that Ryan? Yes or no? As in
Ryan, yes or no? Am I fooling myself? Or am I correct?
okay. That's less offensive. I thought you meant on Ryan's case. We're not sure which one was crappier.
You are terrible.
I know.
Wow. It's no, but it's just more of a thing where it's just like, you know, the original. It's just like why I started reading Gun Show is not what Gun Show is.
And that happens in a lot of cases.
And it's like, that's my fault. That's not his fault.
No, sometimes viewers learn and grow with the artists they follow. Sometimes they don't. And sometimes an artist reaches a point where they speak to a completely different audience. And the problem, I think, with Casey Green is that he's at a point where he should be speaking to a completely different audience, but he really wants to be talking to the first one.
No, I think it's the opposite.
Really?
Yes. I think he wants to be speaking to a different audience, but he can't gain any ground with them.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
So he's falling back to the...
And if you look at...
I get what you mean.
Mechanically, how every one of his stories go, it's almost like he makes 5 or 6 comics in a story trying to break out of the stratosphere, and it's not happening. Quick, bail out and do the fart jokes. Quick. Make the rabbits fart.
God, it's a lot like WWE now that I think about it.
It all comes back to wrestling.
It really does.
Let's just do the wrestling segment again.
Over again. Yeah, so, we still like Casey Green, yes?
As a human being, sure.
I was going to say even as an artist.
Yeah, I love Casey
I'm
Green.
not willing to give him up just yet.
No,
he has.
I love Casey Green.
He has certain mechanics that really do endear him to me. One of the ones I'm thinking is, it's a very specific comic. Do you happen to remember the one where it was the robot who helps you make decisions?
I might.
It was a crazy-looking inventor comes in with a robot who will help you make decisions, and the joke is he only makes bad decisions. But in panel 6, you just see the inventor turn and leave the panel, and the hover text is, "The inventor left in panel 6 because I did not need him anymore." And it's just that certain, almost like, fuck it meta, I think is the way I would put it. Where there can be 5 panels of silence, and they'll turn to the camera saying, "I'm not making a joke because fuck you."
I remember the one with, I don't even remember. I just remember the comic had a mummy in it, and the last panel was just, "Don't read this comic, Mom. You too, Dad." It
was Dracula and Mummy 69ing, "Tongue that dusty butthole."
Yeah.
"Mom, don't read. Dad, you too." But that's Gun Show like 4 years ago.
I know. That was the Gun Show that I fucking loved.
More Dracula 69ing.
And the drunk guy with a moon laser. Let's dirty fuck.
Oh, whoops, sorry.
That's the great thing about these comics, though.
They're timeless.
They're on the internet, and they're for free, and you can always go back to the Casey Green you knew and loved.
It's a rare comic artist on the web, no doubt, that makes his way into our lexicon, but if I say, "What you thinking about?" you immediately think butt fucking.
Let's not even talk about dick butt.
Casey Green will die before dick butt does.
No, it's like I am gonna go ahead and say that people who do not even know who barely know what the internet is, and who only get their internet feeds from like Cheeseburger and things like that, know who dick butt is.
Yep.
Casey Green started dick butt. You learned something today.
Oh god, that was a good strip too.
Yep. That wasn't even Gun Show. That was horrible.
It was.
That's been around forever. All right,
next.
So we're gonna move right along into. I condensed a lot of the segments that we had separated on the idea sheet. It's all read, play, watch stuff.
Sure. What the fuck did you do this week?
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about the M.Roosevelt music. I don't know. I know Ryan's listened to it before.
Shit, I have not listened to it.
You didn't listen? Okay, well, I gave you the links. You'll. We're not going to talk about it much today because I want to make sure that we know what we're talking about going into. Ryan and I are both big fans.
It's a weird thing. I don't have the opportunity to meet a lot of artists, much less musical artists. I've met Mike Rasmus. I would describe him as a retiring yet effortlessly pleasant gentleman.
There you go.
And I think he may want to not exist.
Oh,
well, yeah. So the M.Roosevelt spelled like with an M and then the president's name. .bandcamp.com is where you can find all of his music. I've done a lot of album art for him. I'm going to be doing more in the future. He's going to be making us a theme song at some point.
Fantastic.
He's moved in with a couple of roommates in New York now, and they've opened up a studio of sorts I don't know the names of his other two roommates or what they are known for. I should probably find out. We should talk about this next week in detail, but I'm working on some tracks now for an EP, and he's been helping me with that. So we definitely want to make sure that we
that you plug that shit.
We plug that shit. We're gonna give that a good solid listen to next week. We're probably gonna talk about Boomerang. I think is the album he told me we should push.
Push it for SummerSlam.
Yeah,
push it for SummerSlam.
Mike Rasmus is the man who made me first think about my wolves.
Yes.
Yes.
And then we see that shit everywhere.
I like to think there's a 40-second wolf that keeps you from locking your keys in the car.
I like to think there's a third wolf. The wolf that has a choice. Jeez. You did not understand the point of that story, did you?
Not at all.
All right, so the next thing, God, see, you guys did not put a lot on the replay watch this week, so it's mostly things I have been doing. So you will talk about the things that I like.
I was gone. I have an excuse.
I quit Hearthstone in a huff, so I'll have more time.
Oh,
I watched
man.
it. Oh, good.
We got to hear about.
We're going to talk about that. Yeah. It was 2 weeks ago that I actually watched this, but we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week because we were too busy talking about comics for 2 hours. Thank God I edited it down to 1. I watched through True Detective.
Through it?
Through it?
8 episodes. Short.
Okay. Is that just season 1?
Yes.
Or,
it's an anthology series. So there is going to be a season 2 of 8 episodes, but it's going to be completely different characters.
What other
shows? So season one is a self-contained story. American Horror Story.
Thank you.
Man, I've been meaning to watch True Detective for like a couple months, and I really need to fucking get around to it. Maybe when I go, when I go home tonight, I'll catch one before I go to bed.
I would highly recommend it. It's really its biggest problem is it's one more in a long line of HBO shows that think women are only to be put on screen naked. Like there just aren't any female characters.
That's HBO.
Yeah, and that's a problem that they need to work on.
You think about it, it's just like, who's the deepest female character on Game of Thrones?
It was Catelyn Stark, probably.
Well, she's super dead.
Game
Spoilers!
Spoilers! I would probably Sansa or Arya now.
Arya's interesting. Arya's very interesting.
I definitely rank Arya over Daenerys.
Daenerys is not that interesting. Daenerys pretty one note.
Daenerys was, I thought, super interesting in season 2 and in season 1.
Which is a shame because no one thought she was interesting in book 2.
Oh.
Cersei's still got some life left in her. There's actually quite a few female characters.
Yeah, she's
in Game
not
of Thrones.
dead.
So True Detective it was good.
Can you give us a summary? I don't actually know that much about it.
Well, do you want spoilers or not? Because
no, we can't.
Well, then I can't really tell you a whole lot about it. It is very good. It's very engaging. There's a lot of very cinematic shots reminiscent of big name movies, crime movies, and the like. That it's a well made show and it's very engaging. And I recommend you go watch it. And once you do, we can talk a little more about thematic things. What I wanted to talk about today was just the detective genre in general. And Ryan was questioning me and saying that he doesn't really like the detective genre, and that didn't really think there was a lot of life in it today. And I actually came up with 4 shows besides True Detective that I have watched very recently that I would consider to be part of the detective genre.
Lay it on me.
Worth watching. The Killing, which just had its 4th and final season on Netflix.
Okay. So
that's all available for watching now. That's very good. I've talked about that before on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Top of the Lake, which is a BBC show about a rape missing persons case in New Zealand, and it actually stars, and I can't remember her name, and it's killing me. She plays Peggy on Mad Men. She's also
I wouldn't be able to give you the actress.
She's also probably going to be in the 2nd season of True Detective, which would be good. I hope she plays a female detective.
That's just like American Horror Show. Isn't Zachary Quinto in both seasons of it?
And in a horror story?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So I hope to see her there because she plays a very good detective. So Top of the Lake is another good one. It's I think it's 5 episodes. It's very short.
Okay.
The Fall, which is another BBC show, and it is set in Ireland, in Belfast, and Gillian Anderson plays the lead detective on that show. She's Agent Scully from X-Files.
I knew the name.
And that's another very good one. And then also on the BBC, Luther, starring Idris Elba as the title character, and that essentially is what if House was a detective.
Okay.
And they're all very good, and they're all very short, and they're all definitely worth watching.
Some of our listeners are going to take issue with me when I say this, but it's my opinion. It's what I hold. How many of the detective shows you've just named, none of which I've watched, so you have me at an advantage, how many of them are pure detective shows, or how many of them are detective shows plus?
Okay.
You don't have to get into spoilers. Just tell me.
I won't. Judging by what I know, your definition of the detective genre is.
I'm thinking of the noir. I'm thinking of Raymond Chandler.
Okay, then I'm gonna go ahead and say all of them.
Okay.
Are detective show plus.
And that's
it's not there is if you're really counting on like a Raymond Chandler where it's the detective really only exists to facilitate the solving of the mystery with some slightly characterized asides.
Yeah.
Then no, none of those shows fit that bill.
Okay, I would say that the majority of the shows you're describing are character dramas. Just like ER is just a soap opera where they happen to be doctors.
Mm-hmm. Wouldn't Sherlock fall into a detective show category?
I don't think so.
I'm waiting for you to give me a reason why not.
I don't think so. I think that
because I'm thinking to myself.
I think that I'm going to go ahead and say that Sherlock actually falls into maybe a science fiction genre. I think there needs to be a whole genre set aside for fandom, honestly.
Well,
because Sherlock is closer to Doctor Who than it is to Law and Order, you know?
What's his
I mean,
name?
it's not Law and Order, but I mean, at its core, the show is about, it's just like, here's a mystery, solve the mystery.
And on that level where it's there's a mystery to be solved, and there are characters who solve it, I guess Sherlock does fall in that same category. But,
yeah, we just don't talk about the fandom stuff.
It does. Sherlock is not the same tone as those shows at all.
And we could even expand this to say that in modern culture, all genres are almost not equally lifeless, but all suffer from the same problem. People like to get attached to characters. That's why you don't have you have stories about detectives. You don't have detective stories.
Well, that's why character is king. All right. So, the Rover, we all read it.
We
did you read it?
Drew McGarry's The Rover. Kyle, you start.
It was a short. Basically, the author is a writer that I read mostly writing sports columns. Honestly,
What's his name?
Drew McGarry.
Thank you.
And he plugged his little short story one time for 99 cents in the Amazon store. I'm like, what the hell? 99 cents. I'll just give it a read. I thought it was a fun little read.
Yeah, it's funny hearing that he's a sports writer.
I knew
makes
that.
a lot of
He's a sports columnist. He
that.
doesn't always write about sports, but he's a correspondent for GQ, if I recall.
It makes a lot of sense to me now because
I knew he was a columnist. I didn't think Kyle read short story columnists.
Well, I mean, it was it's funny.
The thing is, I don't know if he's ever written fiction before.
I enjoyed the story. I did not like the way it was written.
I can see that.
I felt it was very unpolished, and it felt like
rushed and rough.
Yeah, it really did feel rough, and there was
honestly, for all I know, it could have been a thing that he just kind of wrote one time and was just like, I'll publish it.
It's a pretty solid concept for a little sci-fi story, and I think it would. I said this to Ryan this afternoon. I think it would have made an excellent short film.
I could see that. I could actually really see that.
Because then you have something like an actor, you have music cues to fall back on, where otherwise the writing is weaker.
Yeah.
You know what? You're absolutely right.
The prose was just was very rough, and for people like Ryan and I who
I just don't know if he's very good at writing fiction.
Yeah, I think he could be given time, but he needs to do some work, and he really needs is an editor.
Yeah,
probably.
Let's make a specific criticism here. The story, which very briefly is about an old man who finds this thing that he believes is from space in his backyard, and it's this little rover. It's like a Roomba kind of thing. But
it'll fuck you up.
This is another thing that you could read on a lunch break.
Oh yeah, easily. The main strength of the story, such as it is, the main theme is the character is an old man who is essentially given one last chance to be significant in his life. The problem is that the story does not explore this. The story repeatedly mentions it. I would have liked to have seen more scenes of him dwelling on how little he's done and less just mentions of, man, my knees are shit. or man, my bowels aren't what they used to be.
But it's funny because, and I'd like to thank Kyle for introducing us to this because I think it is something that's worth talking about. We're experiencing a situation where the concept is worthy and solid, but it's the execution where things kind of start to fall apart. And if this story had been edited by somebody, an editor really would have gone through this and said, you should be demonstrating this stuff as opposed to saying it, and it could be a lot stronger, I think, on those merits. And it smacks to me of, because I've done things like this before, it really smacks to me of a story that you finish writing and you think is really good, and you don't want to give it to anybody else because you kind of secretly know in the back of your head that it's got some work to be done on it, but you don't want anybody else to tell you that.
Speaking as someone who works as an editor...
Ryan works as an editor.
I do work as an editor.
Ryan is my editor.
Speaking from my personal experience, I've got about 2 years under my belt now. It's hard to say it, this is not first draft material. This is the level of material that we would typically see in a proposal. This is what we would receive along with a synopsis of the plot and a couple of other quid pro quos that goes into any kind of submission. Our feedback to that writer would be what we've just discussed here, and then he would come back to us with what we would term a first draft. And that can be hard for someone to hear. I do think it's a short story that would be picked up.
Yeah, I do too.
But an editor...
But you just thought it was very raw.
Yeah.
Yeah, an editor would not allow this to go across his desk untouched.
You would.
I'm wondering. We could actually check to see if this was just self-published, because I'm pretty sure you can only get it digital
for Kindle. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
It's $1 for Kindle.
That tends to be. Again, I know
We've
this
done that, yeah.
tends to be the minimum price at which you can see any profit.
Okay.
We will. But it's and it is tough with a lot of these things because you do put your heart and soul into these. Fucking motorcycles. I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna Tanya Harding that motherfucker. Anyways, you put your heart and soul into these things, and you really do get scared to give them to somebody because having negative comments, even in a constructive fashion, come back is the literary equivalent of getting kicked in the nuts. It's really not fun.
Thank you for wearing slippers, but you still kicked me in the nuts.
Yeah. So, thanks for bringing that to us, Kyle, and keep doing things like that because we want to get you talking about things that aren't wrestling.
Good. Okay.
Like the Carolina Hurricanes.
Fuck off.
I knew he didn't listen to last week's podcast when he didn't mention that. Ryan talked about the Carolina Hurricanes for like 5 minutes last week.
Oh, wow.
On your behalf.
Lovely.
So, Ryan, I understand you started reading Salem's Lot.
I did. I'm not particularly far into it. I don't have a lot of experience with Stephen King's classics, which some people might be surprised of. The only Stephen King classic horror book that I have read is I read The Shining last year around Christmas time. I've never seen the Kubrick film. It was my first time even reading a horror novel, to be honest with you. I came away very pleased and somewhat surprised because I did not find The Shining at all frightening. It was not horrifying, it was not scary, it was not startling. It was extremely well written, but it was a thriller, not a horror book.
The first time I read The Shining, I was not scared by it either. I read it in high school. I wasn't scared with it. I had the same kind of level of surprise at the end of it where I really enjoyed it, but I was never really scared by it.
I've never read it. I should.
You should.
It's very good.
I read it again very recently. I think as close as a month ago. It was actually much scarier the second time around.
That's surprising, and that lets me kind of segue into my main point. I will be, at least until I get bored of it, I will be going through the King classics. I'll be trying to
You need to read Salem's Lot next.
I'm reading Salem's Lot now, then I'll be hitting Cujo.
I'm sorry. You need to read Pet Sematary next.
I wasn't sure if it should be Pet Sematary or Cujo.
You need to read Pet Sematary.
next. I have never read a Stephen King book. I am looking for a book to read, so
I have all the classics, or you can get them on Kindle too, probably.
You may feel free to join me.
Yeah, sure.
I am very interested to see if King can scare me at any point. And the reason I say that is, to me, a book, a written work, is the least suitable method to scare someone that I can think of.
See, I think that you're relying too firmly on things like jump scares and blood and guts stuff.
Then what does it mean to frighten someone?
The takeaway I always get from Stephen King books is you have a lot of psychological things that sit with you and disturb you for a very long time.
I can't say that happened to me. They don't disturb
Well, you're pretty fucked up.
That
so.
that might be it. But a movie has so many advantages because it can draw on the two biggest senses that trigger into our flight or fight response. It has access to our auditory and visual senses. Mm-hmm. A book doesn't. A book only has the power of your imagination. But how can a book scare you when even if it starts to try, you are fully aware that you are holding a book? There is not even the threat of, what if I can't make it to the remote in time and I see the scary girl in the ring? I am in complete control of a book. I can stop mid-sentence if I start getting spooked.
There's a certain amount of participation in horror that I think people don't appreciate as much as they should. And I think a big part of getting scared by a book is you kind of have to want to be.
That's what a hypnotist says to his drunk participants.
It's true, though. You can't be hypnotized if you don't want to be. But no, but and if you're reading a horror novel, most people don't read a horror novel daring it. Okay, scare me.
No, I'm not going into it like a ghost hunter standing in a hallway saying ghosts come at me. I'm honestly looking to be scared, or at least to know what it is like when a book frightens you. To me, a book frightens you when you close the cover and you're not done reading it, and you're not quite ready to turn the lights off for whatever reason. And I feel like the closest that King... Because the problem is that King is an extremely good writer, so I often get distracted by how well executed the passages are. Like, in Shining, I should have been afraid of the wasps. I just liked that sequence too much. It was way too much fun to read.
I need to read this. Now, would you be interested in seeing the Kubrick film?
It would probably scare the ever-loving shit out of me.
You should watch it. I own it on
Blu-ray.
I had to stream it, so I was only able to get through about half of it, and then I had to go somewhere, and then I lost my place.
Yeah,
and
I own it on Blu-ray. We should watch it.
For the cast.
Jack Torrance is a fascinating character. I love to watch him win. I love to watch him lose. And neither direction stuck with me other than I'm seeing a character.
Prior warning, Stephen King hated the movie.
No, that's fair.
But have you seen any of the movies that Stephen King has been directly involved in? Because they're all terrible.
Really?
No, Stephen King does not have a good eye for movies because Stephen King has the ability to make 3 pages of text where it should be a paragraph work for him.
Stephen King worked with the Sci-Fi Channel to make his version of The Shining.
Was it terrible?
It's a 6-hour-long miniseries, and it's fucking terrible.
Oh.
That's really bad.
It's like Kubrick is not at all afraid to gut source material to do what he wants to do.
He stays surprisingly close to it, but yeah.
He stayed surprisingly close.
From what I understand,
one crucial turn.
Yeah, what I feel like, and I've read this before, Stephen King's big thing was just like he didn't communicate the horrors of drinking enough.
No, the man was weak, and in the movie, the hotel is evil.
Yeah, well, but
I'm stealing from
you're right, but you're stealing from things I told my dad.
Well, then that's all germane to the cast.
All right, I'll read The Shining this week.
Yeah, and then we'll watch the movie because I just read it recently, and it's something we can talk about. All right, so I've been on a gaming bender lately.
Yes, you have.
Have you finished Barkley 2?
Oh, I need to do that.
Barkley Shut Up and Jam Gaiden.
Yeah, you know what? I should do that tomorrow.
Yeah, the one. You know who needs to finish Barkley 2? The motherfucker making it.
They're working on it.
I've been a glutton for punishment lately in the games that I've been playing. I'm not going to talk about this much right now. This is something we could save for a great discussion at a later time. I've been playing Borderlands 2 again, and I mentioned this to you last night, Kyle. I think you might have been there as well.
Possibly.
I've mentioned it to you before in the past, but my latest play of Borderlands 2 has been hampered by the fact that I cannot listen to the dialogue anymore. And they make you wait to do quests until you've finished listening to the person who's talking. And I can't do it. I quit out every time.
I haven't done a second playthrough of Borderlands 2. I can completely understand why that would be.
Yeah, and it's funny.
Borderlands 2 is definitely best on the first playthrough.
It's something I did not pick up on until my second playthrough of the game, which was it was when the Necromancer class first came out. I ended up playing through the game again as that class.
Is that the girlfriend class?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fun class though.
It is.
I'll bet.
It's not really a girlfriend class, but. Whatever you think of it. I played through it a second time, and I was saying to Ryan, it's like, wow, I actually really don't like the writing in this game.
No.
And it's something that has stayed true even to this day. The first time, on the Virgin experience for Borderlands 2...
That game's hilarious.
It's hilarious. The second time through, you realize you want it to end. It is so insanely verbose to a fault, to a major fault.
There needs to be a skip button. Simple as that.
No, there's not.
That's why I'm saying, though, if you pick up the DLC, I'll play it with you, because I haven't played it, and I'm sure and I've heard nothing but great things about the DLC.
Let's
all
get
38 packages of it?
What? I
just buy the season pass and you get it all.
I had the first season pass.
How many did there end up being for Borderlands 1?
I think for Borderlands 1, I believe there were 4.
I think I only played 2. I played General Knox's Armor.
I never played any of it.
I played Dr. Zed, or Dr. Ned, General Knox, Mad Moxie, and...
Those are the 2 I didn't play. Mad Moxie and the other one.
Maybe there were only 3.
General Knox was really good. General Knox was the one where his commanding officer was a 6-year-old.
Yeah. All right. So the other thing, I reinstalled Diablo 1, and I played until I hit the wall. I got to level 13 of the Labyrinth, and I hit the first group of guys, and I expended all of my resources in a single fight with 3 mooks. I don't know how many of our listeners have played Diablo 1 or remember that. It holds up. It's still a really good game. It's a really good dungeon crawler. It's brutal. The people who like Diablo 1 are the same kind of people who are like me and still appreciate a good game of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd Edition.
And Self-Flagellation's coming back.
Yeah. But in that same vein of Self-Flagellation, I also started Dark Souls 2.
That is much more interesting to me.
Yeah. And I've had a couple of good it's Dark Souls moments.
Mm-hmm. Motherfucker aggroed the pigs twice.
I aggroed the pigs
by
accident both times.
In the span of like 20 minutes.
I was just trying to explore Majula, and I'm like, wait, did I look in this alcove? I don't think I don't. Nope, yeah, I did. There's the pig. Oh fuck, there's the pig.
That's exactly what happened to me.
No, that was the second time through though.
He did it twice.
I did it twice. And you know, I am starting to get a little better at it. I'm playing the night class. I'm sword and boarding it. I think I'm going to do a strength build. I think I'm actually going to give up on the shield really to go to do more two-handed weapon stuff because you do more damage and
dodge
rolls, yeah, and circle strafing.
Switch between them.
I have a shield on my back, and it doesn't really add that much to my equipment rating. So I think I'll end up doing that. So there's going to be more to hear on that because I'm only about 2-3 hours in at this point.
How many times have you died?
I think 4.
Have you actually gotten to the first boss?
No.
Have you fought the Pursuer for the first time?
I have not fought the Pursuer yet either. So I've really just been dicking around in all the areas.
All right, well then come back to us when you've at least beaten or fought one of those bosses.
I was trying to find the Pursuer this afternoon to fight him, and I was unable to do so. So I think
he's right outside. He's right to the if you've opened the shortcut, he's to the right of the bonfire where the hag first appears.
Oh, I haven't opened the shortcut.
Okay, then it's an out and around in the back. But in terms of like geographic space,
you can go around.
Okay,
I think you had to go down the hole.
You might be able to go down the hole. Oh, for the listeners, I don't actually have Dark Souls 2.
He just happens to know, you know.
I do happen to know from what I've watched that you can sequence break if you have fire bombs.
Oh,
you might actually be able to manage it such that you have to throw it at that right as you go in where that bonfire is. To your right, that wall breaks down. If you throw fire bombs, you can hit the exploding barrels on the other side.
I think I'm going to end up doing is what Chips recommended that I should do, which is I don't have any soapstones, so I don't know how to put down my mark to get summoned into
You
other
receive
worlds.
a soapstone from Pate.
Where's Pate?
You said you'd met Pate.
No, I said that I watched the best friends meet Pate.
Okay, Pate is further in that area.
Okay.
There are a couple of NPCs that you need to meet in the Forest of the Giants, and if you haven't met them at the end, I'll tell you to go back. Don't worry.
Okay, so I've clearly got some more exploration to do. I haven't had a whole lot of time to play it yet, but I'm enjoying the hell out of it. So that's pretty much it for my list. Wrapping up, we've already got some things we want to talk about next week.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're probably going to watch The Shining
at some point
between now and then, so you got that to look forward to. We're going to watch Monday Night Raw pretty much as soon as I turn off this recording.
Yeah.
We got some guys coming over, going to drink some PBR, watch some wrestling.
Gotta catch the last 10 minutes of the pre-show, bro.
Did you know that there was a pre-show for SummerSlam? Rob Van Dam fought Cesaro.
Yes,
yeah, we watched
it.
Oh, good. So did I.
All right, so a lot of things to look forward to next week. I think we've talked about some great things this week. We thank you for listening, as we always do. Don't forget to Patreon patrons should be getting this in their inbox.
Yeah.
Hopefully, as soon as I finish it up, I'm working on an effective delivery method for the podcast because they are too big to put in the Patron Rewards Dropbox folders. I don't have that much space in my Dropbox. Maybe someday I'll upgrade to professional Dropbox. That day is not today.
Someday he'll be professional.
Yeah. So maybe...
What are you compressing into? We can talk about this.
Yeah, it's not important. So yeah, always don't forget to check out the Patreon. Don't forget to check out M.Roosevelt, Bandcamp.com. The Rover by Drew McGarry is on Kindle. Casey Green, Gunshowcomic.com, and Google it. Casey Green.
Unfortunately, I don't know
what the URL is. Those are the things we talked about this week. And next week we'll have a whole lot of great things to talk about. So for tonight, for the Health Breakfast Show, signing off. Everybody say goodnight.
Good night, all.
Good night, everybody.